but some of the things that I'm seeing from feminists are just flat out insane. So I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, though, because I still believe that we do need a certain element of political incentives and things to keep to drive home the point of being respectful and keeping some of our rights and keeping things in place and balance. Because if we don't, I promise you, just given basic male nature, this can go in a direction that we'll look up and be like, they're going to hands made tail our behinds in a minute.
Oh no! So I think the feminist movement is rooted in a fear of men and like a deficit view of men. I think it has been normalized to believe the worst of men, and then we create movements around the fact that men are scary and horrible, as opposed to seeing men needing love and nurturing, needing healing, needing reconciliation, needing literal Jesus.
Women were led by emotions. So as soon as we feel like something's off, or we feel he's being mean, or we feel this or feel that, we take it to that next level. And if they don't come into alignment with how we feel, well, now we got to go. Now we got a divorce. He takes the phone away because her grades aren't good, or his grades aren't good, or he's mouthed off at the teacher. And now all of a sudden, he's mean. He's mean to the kids. He doesn't want to listen to them. He's a father. He doesn't parent how we parent. And that's why there's a mother and a father, for the balanced dynamic.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mel, and welcome to Life Coaching by Mel. Here at Life Coaching by Mel, we speak truth regarding the nuclear family. And if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get each and every one of my videos. Hit that like button for me. Hit me in that comment section. Today is going to be an invigorating conversation that I know you want to contribute to, and be sure to share this with at least one person. Let's get into today's topic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining today. I have an amazing conversation for you today. I have three amazing ladies who are firecrackers. I'll be honest with you. These ladies don't play. They hold true to their beliefs. They stand firm on those beliefs. And we have a conversation with the intent of answering this question: is the feminist movement still needed? We're going to allow these ladies to introduce themselves and also answer this question for me. What has been your experience with the feminist movement? We're going to start with this.
Well, first and foremost, let me say thank you so much for allowing me to come on, say my piece, voice my opinion. So thank you. So thank you so much. My name is Destiny, as you said, and I'm a mother of three, recently divorced, was married basically together with him, I'll just say 20 total years. So a very long time. There was a lot that went on with that, and that's not this show, but just to give you kind of a back history, there was a divorce, 3 boys, 18, 13, and 10. And, through my experiences, hopefully next year I'll be able to start my own coaching life and health and wellness. I'm losing weight, about 65 pounds so far, with some more to go. So with my own journey, I really have a passion for helping women find their purpose, their destiny. So that's kind of my story with that. So what is my experience, your question was, in regard to the feminist movement? I'll be honest, I have stayed away from it for the most part. Obviously in 2024, I would be a fool to say I haven't reaped any of the benefits of what the women previously before us have done, as far as allowing us to vote and all of that. So with that said, I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ. So I have a strong relationship. I have a spiritual outlook on everything. So that's where I start, first and foremost, biblically, and I go from there. So I don't have a real relationship with the feminist movement. I don't relate for the most part. That's kind of where that stands. So that's where it's at. Like I said, I'd be a fool to say I haven't reaped any of the benefits, but maybe we'll go further into that in a little bit. But I don't, for the most part, generally speaking, don't have a passion for it, anything like that. So
nice, thank you, Sharita.
Hey, well, you guys, my name is Sharitha. I currently live in a suburb just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. I am married and I have a mix of older and younger children and 2 grandchildren. Um, and I help exhausted moms and women empower themselves by starting their own online business. So just kind of piggybacking off of what Destiny just said, women's empowerment, just getting our lives right, getting ourselves back in order. So today's discussion is right up my alley. Now, the feminist movement, it's so broad and encompasses so many different things, but it spans several decades, right? And I believe, it kicked off just before I was born. So I'm like, are we talking like old feminist movement or this new here and now? Because it is so different. It looks a lot different because in my opinion, it never really stopped. So I guess you could say I've been experiencing it in some shape, form, or fashion all my life, starting with the women in my family and who came before me. So there's various aspects to the feminist movement. And to answer the question about, is it, I don't get caught up in I guess too tied down with the extreme side of feminism and things like that in the movement, but I do still feel it is necessary. And I'll elaborate on that, I guess, as this discussion unfolds.
Awesome. India.
Hi. Well, hey, thanks for having me, Coach Mill. Hi, Coach Mill's audience. I am India. There's a million different ways that I can describe myself. So I guess following your all's lead, I am twice divorced. I had a wife. So when I was married to a woman, I was with a woman for 7 years. I was a super feminist. I was super independent. I was a homeowner. I was the breadwinner. I was the head of household. Even though I was feminine, I would say externally, I'm the more feminine. I'm just a more girly person, but I am a boss in general. So I would say in my early years, in my 20s, specifically in early 30s, I don't know if I identified as a feminist, but feminists certainly identified with me because I was the epitome of not needing a man and not wanting to have children. So that is my experience with the feminist movement.
All right. Thank you, ladies, for that. And we're going to move forward in the conversation with the first question. What did Kamala Harris's losing of the 2024 presidential election, what did that mean to you or for you as a woman? We're going to start with Sharitha.
Well, it meant sheer joy. Now, let me preface by saying I don't have a party affiliation, and of course, you're already aware of that, Mel. I realized that Kamala, and it's just my personal opinion. I realized that Kamala wanted to wear the S on her chest and cape on her, back for feminists. However, I personally felt her philosophy and certain actions and those of the party were extreme. Words were minced and twisted and just flat out made no sense to me as far as like what they were saying about women's rights and how they're going to be taken away. So despite American women still being behind the curve, if you will, when it comes to equality with men, we've made a lot of strides. And the thing of it is we're spoiled now. There's no turning back the clock on that. And if men tried, there would be hell to pay and lots of fury, on both sides of the political aisle. So, her losing the election, what it meant to me, as a woman, other than me being glad, I didn't think she was qualified, but that's my personal opinion. It did nothing by way of my decision on the feminist, I hate to say feminist movement because I don't like labels, and and it's just so broad. But there are a lot of different avenues and aspects that a lot of us benefit from having advancements, in some of these movements, if you will.
No doubt. India.
What was the question again, Mel?
What did her losing the election, how did it impact you as a woman, if at all?
I mean, I can't say that her losing. Here's how it impacted me. Like, okay, here's an example. Last night I was sitting at a little tiki bar restaurant here in Tampa. Made some new friends. I'm always making new friends. These ladies, they graduated from high school together in 1970. They're all born and raised here in Florida. 6 generations deep, white ladies. 6 generations deep. What happens is they typically feel uncomfortable. People feel uncomfortable speaking openly about their views of the world around me because they assume that I am somebody who is like emotionally invested and was emotionally invested in Kamala's like success. So I experienced like people tiptoeing around or trying to find a common ground and saying something. Like last night, one of the older ladies said like, the world just still isn't ready for a woman to be president. And I just had to back her up out of that conversation because she thought that was about to be like a connecting point for us. There's generational gaps. There's all kinds of gaps between us. So she thought we were going to relate in that. And I was like, that's not my perspective, but, I love your hair. We could talk about something else. So I think that's what it is for me. I find specifically white women, they see Kamala Harris as their opportunity for us to relate and what it means to be a woman. And at this age, at 36, having lived the life that I have lived, I understand the power and necessity of having a man around. I understand the balance that is brought with that. And I don't really see the world as men versus women. That doesn't even make any sense to me at all. So that's how it affected me, I guess.
Nice. Destiny. Oh, she changed locations.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
I'm
It's all good.
so sorry. Let me know where I need to start in on if it's my turn.
It is your turn. What impact
Okay,
did
I'm so
her
sorry.
losing
I'm
have
so
on
sorry.
you?
The impact, I was happy. I was happy. I thought it would have been a complete disaster. I'm not opposed to voting for a woman. I think it takes a very special woman in that position, and she was not it. I am a conservative. I'm a Christian conservative, so obviously, I would prefer a conservative woman in the position, but she was. Regardless of party, regardless of her policies were so off the wall for me. She couldn't answer a single question straightforward. Nothing made sense. It was an embarrassment to me, even as a woman. So I was overjoyed. I was happy. Again, if there was a woman who I felt was strong enough, it's a very, very special position to be in, representing the United States, going to different countries, and as a woman to be taken very seriously in the presence of men. I can't say that there's too many women as a senator, as a governor that I could think of right now that I would even vote for because of that. But I'm not saying I wouldn't. It would just take a very special person, and she was the furthest thing from it that I could imagine. So I was happy.
There's a consensus on that, but is there anything that was said from anyone that would like to be offered as a rebuttal? Oh, you guys would like to offer a rebuttal? Nothing? All right, that's good. So let's ask this. So Destiny brought up that she can't think of anyone that she would at the moment that's in office at the moment, but is there anyone else that either of you say this would be a woman I would vote for?
Well, my followers know I've been running for president since I was in kindergarten, and I'm very open about that. I've been running for president since I was in kindergarten. So when I first started speaking out about Kamala Harris earlier this summer, people would say like, You know, I got plenty of haters, Mel. You know, I got plenty of haters, and they will hop in the comments and say, "Well, why don't you run for president then?" And I said, "Well, you know what? I actually am of age, and I'm more qualified than you assume because I don't walk around with my resume just on my forehead. I don't need to do all of that, but I'll show you how easy it actually is to put a platform together and make it available." So I started doing those things, and when I say I think I decided at some point I don't really want to vote for anybody for president until I'm voting for myself. And even I understand that as a woman, it's really not my place. It's really not my place. I don't find it to be my place. But at this point, this country needs some nurturing. And I do think that is a woman's power. A woman can come in and see the needs of the people and uplift and heal the people before then handing it back, I think, to a man who can lead in an executive fashion that we need. But it would be me is who I would vote for. That's who I plan to vote for. I feel like I'm the most capable person for the job.
Yeah, that was an interesting perspective you gave about women, you know, someone coming in to nurture, to reset things. But I think we are all in agreement here that Kamala was not the one. And if I had to choose and select, you know, Mel be putting us backing us in these corners like, look, give me a name. So, but if I had to choose, I would probably choose Tulsi Gabbard.
I love her.
I don't know what it is about Tulsi, but she brings that. She has what I observe to be a good balance. Mm-hmm. You know, she got a lot of strong masculine energy as well as the feminine, and you need both to, you know, to bring it like that. So yeah, if I had to pick someone and there was somebody, I mean, Tulsi ripped Kamala to shreds. Okay, when it came to the when they were debating the first time, and she ate her up, and all her points were valid, but it wasn't just about that. It was just more so what she stood for as well. So yeah, that would have been my pick, you know, if I had to choose someone.
Yeah, no doubt. Destiny, you said no politician, but is there anyone else?
Well, okay, maybe I'll take that back a little bit. I could agree. I could give her a chance. Tulsi Gabbard, I could do that for the same reasons that she gave. I wasn't thinking about her, but outside of politics, there really isn't. I'm a real big, like you said, there has to be a really good mix of the masculine energy with the feminine energy. There has to be a level head. I don't want emotions. I really don't. That's not a position I want to hear someone what they feel, you know.
Right. You can't be the president and be all in your feelings and emotion.
No. And, you know, and God has given us those, and it's a blessing, and we are to use them for our benefit. I have no problem with that. But when it comes to that position, I don't want to hear nothing about what you're feeling, you know, a good intention or making this group feel this way or they're feeling that. I don't want to hear all that. What do we need to do to get the country where it needs to be? Point blank, simple, black and white. That's what I want to deal with. So that's why I say very few, even myself, I think I regulate myself pretty well. But even myself, I understand, oh no, I'm in my feelings today. It's not, I'm in my feelings and I recognize it. I'll be like, oh, what is wrong with me today? So, you know, it's knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, and knowing a weakness is actually a strength. So where you can basically monitor yourself, but it's just not, for me, I can't see, you know, it has to be a lot of masculine energy for me.
Yeah, this world doesn't even really want to acknowledge that there is a difference between men and women, and there should be. There is purpose in there being a difference between men and women. As a matter of fact, if man really was created first, and then our creator was like, you can use some help, you know, like that's what was seen, like, ooh, man needs some help. Let me give man woman. That means we come with obviously different attributes that are helpful to the man, and then therefore helpful to society. But as long as we pretend like men and women are the same, men and women are equal and have the same jobs and the same responsibilities, then we look at women's emotions as a weakness as opposed to it being a blessing and a gift. The fact that we are so sensitive, so emotionally inclined, that's our role in society. That means that we should not be making decisions about war or trade or, you know, any of these things. How we can't make those decisions because we're going to allow our feelings to lead. And this is a corporation. America is a business. It's a corporation, and it has to be treated as such, not a family.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you, India. I think that there has to be, you have to have a stern resolve to you, you know, when you're doing stuff, because you got a lot of women that, like you said, the US is a corporation, and there's women who run companies and corporations, and we all know that balance has to be there. But also for me, because, you know, Kamala's name was brought up, is that, you know, these pretenses and false, she was not authentic. And you can't present yourself in that manner when it comes to, regardless of what the agenda or order of the day is. We all know that these government, there's just full of a bunch of movements and agendas, and they hijack everything. But being real and being authentic about it and being sincere, people can read, they can read you. We know how to read the room. So when you come from that angle and that aspect, and it just was a poor representation of us as women. Number one, you know, forget Black. There's so many debates on what is she, but either way, it was just a poor representation. And in my opinion, it was an embarrassment. And I'm like, good grief, you know. And I think hopefully, you know, it doesn't. Hopefully, it doesn't smear chances of another qualified woman, but it does take a strong one. I know I couldn't do, I don't want to run this country. It's too many layers of stuff going on, but you know, I just think it does show how we, that side of us that, you know, needs to be kept in check when you are talking about running a major country. That's just, it's my thoughts on that.
Because what does it even mean to be a woman? I would ask my followers this when it comes to her. They're saying both of her, she's a woman. Okay, what does a woman mean? What has she done that is in alignment with what women do? Now, I am also a childless woman. I'm a childless woman because I care about the world that I bring my children into. I'm being very intentional about that. So are you a childless woman? If I were in her position, I would say, I've not yet had children. I did not have children because I just wasn't satisfied with the way the world was operating. Or I did not have children because whatever. It means something to be a woman, to be able to to create life. It means something. So just leaving that out of the conversation entirely, but constantly talking about reproductive rights was strange to me, because what does it mean to be
very strange?
What does it mean? Even though I don't have children, my reproductive capacity is like what defines me the most personally, with being a woman. So that it constantly will come up in conversation for me, because I think about everything like a mother, even though I'm not biologically a mother. That's how I see the world. I see the world with my children coming into it. What kind of world do I want my children to inherit? That would be the benefit of having a female president. You are receiving that nurturing feminine energy. We did not get that from her at all. So she redefined what being a woman means to the world in the worst of ways, in my opinion, and took us further away from that appreciation for femininity and nurturing and emotionality and sensitivity. They took away the value of that.
That's very
well
interesting.
said.
Well said. And that was very well said. But it's also those things for me I didn't want to see in office, and that's the hard dynamic for me, because you explained it very well. She was a poor representation of what a woman is. That's probably the difficult part of running for that position, because I don't want to see those attributes in that position, a nurturer per se, or that's a position where you have to set aside all your personal beliefs, your emotions, your feelings about who's going to be impacted on what policy may go, because it's for the country, millions of people, right? So I don't know about you, but like for me as a woman, I want to say, well, I could do this, that, but I know in the back of my head, I'll be thinking, well, it's gonna impact this person. Well, how is this person? Okay, well then I'm overthinking 1,000 million things, and just doing my own daily things. I'm like, okay. What am I gonna do? It's just not, it's not
Yeah, because drone strikes have to be ordered. You're thinking about the children. You're thinking about the mothers. You're thinking about the innocent bystanders,
the elderly.
That's just what it is. You got to drop on them. Like that's part of the job. And a woman will sit and cry at our desk for hours, be up at night thinking about the implications. Forget all that. Drone strikes. That's just what it comes down to on behalf of this corporation. It's a really difficult position for a woman to be in.
Extremely, I think extremely.
Yes,
and I think we would fail unless it was the right one. And then if you get the right one, if you get a woman with no emotions, she's vicious.
Right.
She's vicious.
Something like a witch.
There's nothing like a woman who's emotionless, can't nurture, don't want to nurture. That's scary. So for me, I don't, it would be hard pressed for me to find a woman.
That's right, Destiny. You're right, Destiny. Who is that one that can do that? Like I don't know, because I know I couldn't.
I'm telling y'all, it's me.
Oh, that's right, India.
Because it takes that awareness. Yes, these are conversations I have with myself for that reason. Y'all go ahead, but I love this.
I'll
write you in next time, girl.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I have a full campaign by then.
India Johnson for president, 2028.
Period.
And it's so fascinating.
Period.
As I hear you ladies talk, it's just so fascinating how 4 years ago, previous election, we couldn't define what a woman was. But now you have a woman that's trying to redefine it or can't, hold up to the nature of what the definition of what a woman is. So it's pretty fascinating. Let's move on to our next question here. I want to add a little to it as well. So I want to answer, what was the original purpose of the feminist movement in your view? And now in 2024, is the feminist movement still needed? We're going to start with India on this.
My dream come true. So I believe that the purpose of the feminist movement was to empower women who felt some bitterness toward men. Honestly, I believe that there was some situation that I don't believe this was happening in maybe the Black communities households at the time. I believe that because what our ancestors were coming out of, our men and women were coming together in a very strong way to heal and move forward, to strategize, getting ourselves to a place. And what you saw happening was the Black family unit, in my opinion. What you saw was the Black family unit advancing at an exponential rate, while the counterparts, non-Black counterparts, were now experiencing work stress, home life stress. They're experiencing these new stresses because now some equality is coming into play that might be cutting into their finances. It might be making them feel insecure. If you're at a restaurant, and now there's a different vibe in there, we bring a different vibe. So there's all these insecurities that our elevation kind of initiated in their communities and their households. Then I believe there was strife between the men and the women because of that. It became competition. The women and the men did not want to be outdone by what we had going on with our elevation. This is my viewpoint. And I think from there it just became infighting because of that stress. They probably needed therapy. They probably needed marriage counseling. They probably needed to talk to a pastor. But instead, they became oppositional. And then they taught us how to be oppositional against our men as well. I'll go put myself on mute now.
Well, answer the second part of it. Is it still needed today?
It wasn't needed in the first place. It in my opinion, it wasn't necessary. Well, we need collaboration. We need to be joined together. I base my whole existence off the word of God. It don't mean I'm perfect, but some stuff just don't make sense. Like, where did it ever say in there that the women were supposed to be competing with the men and the women were supposed to be doing what the men do? It's very clear that women are not men and men are not women, and we have our own specific roles. I don't want to have to do what men do. I did it for 7 years. I did it. I don't ever want to do it again. You know, it's actually not fun. It's exhausting. And then these women wonder why they're stressed. They wonder why they're unhappy. They wonder why they're sick, because you're taking on roles and responsibilities, policies and procedures that don't even have anything to do with your existence or creation. I'm going on mute.
All right, Destiny.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, that was good. So I did a little research on this because I wanted to have a clear understanding of when and why it started. So if I could just, so I had to grab my notes. That's why I had to put, but anyways, so what I found was it really started in the middle 1800s. It's about 1850. And medieval women or European women could not own property, study, or participate in public life at the end of the 19th century in France. So it started with France and Germany. France, they still had to wear their heads covered in public at the end of the 19th century. Germany, a husband still had the right to sell his wife. As late as the 20th century, women could not vote or hold elected office in both Europe and the United States. Women could not conduct business without a male present. Married women could not exercise control over their own children without the permission of their husbands. And interesting enough, in the United States, women attached themselves to the abolitionist movement. Given a lot of that, that's why I say I don't have a problem of when and why it started, right? Being owned. You can't do this, you can't do that. So I don't have a problem with that. And like I said earlier, to say that sitting here in 2024 to say that women haven't reaped a little bit of the benefits, I would be a fool. But for me, that's where it should have stopped at that point. And the second wave started in the 60s and 70s. The third wave was the mid 90s, where we probably really remember. And I guess we're now in our fourth wave is what they're calling it. So yeah, no one wants to be looked at as property. No one wants to be sold off as property, right? We deserve to have the right to vote. And it's interesting that India, she pointed out, was it ever needed? I agree with that. As a woman of God, and this is something I didn't come into understanding really until the last few years. So this is very recent for me. We have a tendency to change the whole dynamic of what's going on based on a small percentage of people. Were women abused? Of course. Were they sold off? I'm sure, of course. But we changed the whole dynamic, a whole landscape based on more than likely a smaller percentage of what was happening. So yes, it was needed. I tend to agree with her. I don't believe that the vast majority of women were abused at that level, where it was needed to change everything that we see today to what we have now. I think we have a tendency to want what we don't have, thinking it's better, like the grass is greener, when really we ended up with a bunch of mess. So that's my take on it. So to answer the question, as far as is it relevant now? Do we need it now? No, because we can't. Men are winning women's awards. So where are the feminists now? Where are they standing up when men are pretending to be women, winning model awards? There was just one just 2 weeks ago on Monday. He won a model, the best model of the year award. There was Nevada was crowned their first transgender woman in 2021. Maryland did it in 2024. We know that they're competing in women's sports, and these are things that women have been striving for since they were little girls, being in pageants, whether you agree with them or not. They were doing this since they were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, right? And like they get there, or they get to play the sport, and all of a sudden now now they're competing against a man. So no, it's not needed in my opinion, and I think it's actually an affront to who women are. And these feminists who say they love women, where are they at? They're not speaking out against it, and I think it's a travesty.
Sharita.
Well, I have a bit of a different opinion. Like I said before, the feminist movement is a political movement, and when you translate that from political, that means law, that means governance, right? And so, is the feminist movement still needed? To me, absolutely, 1000%. And the reason I say that is because women are still largely subdued because we operate under a patriarchy. And when you understand, again, that the male nature and female nature and why laws have to exist in the first place, we have to make sure that we stand 10 toes down so that we can have the freedoms and so forth that we have now. I mean, some people argue we're not really totally free. And yes, I agree with that to an extent, but we operate under a patriarchy that's here to control, right? Those are the facts. It's not my feelings or emotions. If you look at things, salaries and wages are still significantly imbalanced. Even with the progression, all the progress that women have made, and even with women as heads of household, they still don't want to pay women the same or more than men. It's really sad, which is why more and more women are starting their own businesses now, at a rate that's double the number of businesses started by men. It's not fair. So we have to address the need and urge in male nature to conquer. It's very strong, even if it's masked or subtle, because men in general have to be at the helm, right? And take all the credit. Our nature as women is not to compete, but under this system and structure, we're made to compete, and not only against men, but amongst other women. So, and I'm not being petty here. It's just my observation. So if you slow down and think about this long enough, you'll see it. There's a lot of talk right now about declining or negative birth rates, right? I mean, women are exhausted under the current system. Somebody lied to y'all when they told you women were genuinely happy with this. Like, only enlightened or men of high moral standing will respect the need for a healthy balance and support what I would say, I guess, a healthy track of feminism, not the rogue and crazy. So, because I think a lot of us, we tend to look at what we're seeing with all this, some of the bodily autonomy issues and things like that. I mean, yeah, we can go back and forth on that all day, but some of the things that I'm seeing from feminists are just flat out insane. So I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, though, because I still believe that we do need a certain element of political incentives and things to keep to drive home the point of being respectful and keeping some of our rights and keeping things in place and balance. Because if we don't, I promise you, just given basic male nature, this can go in a direction that we'll look up and be like, they're going to hands made tail our behinds in a minute.
Oh, no.
So although I'm married, to me, I'm a huge advocate for the independence of our women. And I really can't, get deep into that story. But what I will say is all women should have some type of means where they can comfortably support themselves and have like a sense of fulfillment and merit behind it, like something that they can really call their own and that can't be taken away from them. You see, because the world and reality we live in, it's not the fantasy and illusion that has been set before us.
Okay, Sharitha,
So-
hold on if I got to, because you just said so much that just excited me. So first, I think the feminist movement is rooted in a fear of men and like a deficit view of men. I think it has been normalized to believe the worst of men, and then we create movements around the fact that men are scary and horrible, as opposed to seeing men needing love and nurturing, needing healing, needing reconciliation, needing literal Jesus. And instead of us playing our part, our role, we have a very specific role in existence. Women do. It's very clear. And instead of us playing our role to bring balance, to bring that, men are going to naturally veer more masculine. It's our responsibility to provide that femininity. Once we get into our own masculine energy and see men as our competition, nobody wins. The children don't win. This movement, all movements perpetuate the problem. Because if in 1913, my founding sorority members were marching for women's suffrage, that was in
Are you about to?
I am.
What?
I don't do too much about that, but
I am too, sis. I am too.
So if I learned in 1913 these women were marching for this, like, and here we are a century and a decade later, and we're still saying it's the same issue, the same problem. That means that we're perpetuating the problem. Like all of these problems, we're perpetuating them by believing they exist and then creating whole systems and programs and policies and procedures around them. Men are not our enemy. Men, and we're supposed to be led by men. That's God's order. That's God's design.
Okay, so can we back up for a minute? Right now, I want us to get out of that. I want us to really pay attention to what we observe with male nature and what has happened. What you know historically, what you know now, what you know from your own like personal experiences.
From day one.
Now, everybody, right. Now, when you look, and I'm not saying all men are like this. Like,
but
this
God,
is not, but
God gave men women.
well, let me
help. Like,
and then let her finish the thought.
Yeah, let me finish, because there's more than meets the eye here. There's a whole lot more that I would love to have a dialogue with you, India, and share with you, because there's a lot that we are missing and that we're not told. I understand you are coming from the traditional Christian aspect and Christian's perspective. And even these laws and rules that are in the Bible, okay, are there for a reason, because the men of that time understood very well male nature. This has nothing to do with us and our feelings and our lovey-dovey and wanting to nurture and whatever. This is where you got to get to nature and understanding the nature of a man, right? Understanding nature of women. This is where we as women, we are not taught these things. And this is why laws are in place in the first place, because I think you have a whole different perspective. If they lifted a good bit of the laws and what do you call it? Citations and different things for what we see going on for rates, killing. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can say that word, but if you let men run amok and at their own free will. I'm talking about those that are not enlightened. If you just don't have any laws and they could do what they want to do with the women, this has already happened over thousands of years. These laws, these things exist.
Women are flawless. Women are perfect.
I know what I said. No, I never said that. But I know what I see, and I know what I observe, and I know that that I can't ignore at all. This has nothing to do with movements and somebody programming me in my head. I know what I see and I observe.
Okay,
And I feel like if you lift certain
You get the floor just a
protections,
second, India.
if you lift certain protections, you would, I truly, deeply believe you will have a different perspective on this. No, you're right.
Okay, so here's one.
I don't.
Here's
but
one.
historically, if
Teresa,
you look at
if I may, because you're bullying the floor. So give me.
No, I'm not bullying.
Let's
I'm
pause.
just saying, you talk without breathing, so nobody else can get something in. So I just got to get this in, because otherwise you'll filibuster. So
India.
No,
yeah,
I'm not taking nothing personal. Just
I'm not taking anything personal either.
Yeah.
I know everybody good, but let's.
All right, Mel. Now she filibuster, so it's my turn to respond. She said a lot, and so I'm just trying to respond, and then she'll respond.
She will be, but I just want to make sure we have order. Let's try to be succinct in our responses, but let's try to not cut each other off. All right, let's do that. Go ahead.
All right, but after a while, if somebody goes, I told you I don't do panels because people filibuster, and then they just go. You know what I mean? And it's not a dialogue. So it is, you're making assumptions, right? So after being married to a woman, like I said, I purchased and sold 2 homes. I have started multiple businesses. I created 50 jobs in the city of Indianapolis. I was people's employer. Okay, feeding whole families. I've done that whole thing, right? There was a moment that I realized, actually, I would prefer to have someone with me doing these things. So I did all the things just because the law said I could. I married a woman because the law said I could. I did certain things because the law said I could. And then after living through them, I acknowledged why the old law was in place. It made sense for me why these traditional values exist, and I understand how they would benefit the family unit, is all I'm saying. So you cannot make the assumption that if these laws were lifted, but I also don't see women as victims. If women are not being paid what men are being paid, we have a mouth that can advocate for ourselves. So when I was making $75,000 a year and my white male counterparts were making $100,000 a year, I just marched myself into the CEO's office and did not leave until I got the raise that I was owed. I did not take no for an answer. So that is on us as well. We can't put laws around making men do right by women. Women have to do right for ourselves as well. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, no, this is not me saying you're right, India. I don't know you, but no, I don't want it to get to a point, because it's the depths for which this type of conversation would have to go. We don't really have the time for it on this panel. And I'm always open for in-depth discussion on things. However, I had to back up recently over the past year. I realized I had to really back up to understand the world in this construct that we are in, that it does require looking at why certain laws and things are in place in the first place. Why are they there? So that's I'm just going to leave it there, because we can go down the rabbit hole all day, which, we just don't have time for that. But yeah, I'd like to continue the discussion on another day, another panel, whatever. I'm game. But I'm sorry, I don't know what happened with Destiny.
I think she's probably coming back.
Okay. But anyway.
I mean, if there's a way you can concisely say what you're looking to say,
it would require a lot of in-depth, just going down the rabbit hole of, and I don't want to, this particular panel for today is about this particular issue. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just being honest and trying to be respectful. I got you. Destiny's back.
I'm so sorry. For me, I like definitions. Words matter. So when someone says the nature of something, I think it's like, what exactly does that mean? And then I can kind of go from there. But anyways, there was a lot that was said there. A lot of times when I hear women talking about inequality with pay, there's typically a reason for that. Women are mothers. Sometimes we're not at the job place as often, or maybe as long as a man can be. We have other dynamics that come into play with that. And then first I have to ask, do we we're quick to say that we're not getting paid the same, but do we know we're not getting paid the same? I don't know about other states, other places. Unless you're having a one-on-one conversation, I don't know what my coworker is making per se, other than if we start at the same time and there's a standard, like you get paid this much to this much. So first I have to ask the question, how do we know we're not getting paid the same? That's my first.
We, through those, exactly what you said, those conversations. If you're not having those conversations, of course, then you wouldn't know. But
Right.
yeah, it does come up where, yes, it gets revealed. And this isn't just about jobs, because I haven't had a traditional job in for forever. Okay. I've been, working for myself and have my own business for a long time. So, but that's what ends up. And then also, just with India, there are women who they're not mothers, or maybe they want to be, but maybe they're not. Some just flat out don't want to be. So I just feel like that should not, we should still, as women, just as women, period, whether we're mothers or not, should not have to be dependent or play second fiddle. And like you said, when you backed up in the history earlier, Destiny, and I'm glad you did that. I really, appreciate that, because it shows that at one point we weren't able, we were suppressed heavily. We weren't able to own land, have houses, businesses. We weren't even allowed to participate in commerce to that extent. And so that's why I say, for me, I don't like to, and I don't want to get labeled as someone who wants to be on bandwagons and movements or whatever. I really don't. I really don't. But I do, to an extent, when it comes to what we're calling the feminist movement. It spans so many different broad categories, though. But what we're calling the feminist movement, I guess, in my mind's eye, is one where women are not restricted, right? And we're not subdued in some way. We're allowed to live freely and do whatever. If we choose to raise the families and be married, then great. If not, then great too. So but we're not viewed that way for the most part when it comes to politics and dealing with each other. I think all of us here on this panel right now today are pretty much like, yes, we need a good balance. We don't need this, what do you call it, bickering and infighting with men versus women and all of that. I think we're all on the same page there. And I would have to agree, but that the larger construct, right, and the macrocosm does not look at it that way. That's not the reality we're in. So having certain protections and things like that, and fighting for our rights, if you will, I don't feel like we should have to do that, but we do. That's just how I see it. That's my personal opinion. So I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Go back to this, and I think you're trying to finish your point, right?
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying. I think there's a lot when it comes to the income thing, but also the fact that again, going back to when I hear male nature, I kind of feel like when Indy was saying, it's based off of a fear thing. I don't believe that the vast majority of women and wives were subdued by their husbands. I don't believe that the vast majority of them were abused by their husbands. I don't. The law was there, and I say I don't agree with some of those things, but for the most, it's not I don't believe that it's in a man's nature to want to suppress his wife or suppress his daughters, or again, I'm not saying that men haven't. I believe that we live in a fallen world. I believe that we are all born into sin. I believe that without Christ, men are liable and women are liable to do just about anything and everything. So I think it stems from that. When I pulled up some more information and I went to go look at how women are actually doing in today's world mentally. We are the highest across the board when it comes to mental illness. So you have to ask yourself why. So all these things are put into place, right, that are supposed to benefit us. We're supposed to be these boss chicks. We're supposed to be able to make all this money. We're supposed to strive, and we're college educated, and we can do both, and we could have families and raise our kids. But yet, the prevalence of any mental illness, males, it's 19.7%. Females, 26.4%. Mental health treatment, we know men don't typically get help, but it's 41.6 and females 56.9. On the serious mental illness side, males 4.8, females 7.1. So something's not lining here. Something is not adding up for me when we say, we're supposed to be so much better off than what we were 100 years ago or whatnot.
I think it's I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say to that, I would say
let this be your final thought on this, and then we go to India, one more thought on it.
Okay. I would just real quick, I think it has to do with women not having the real like support system. And I don't mean just the man's not the man's not there or not in the house or whatever. I don't mean that. I mean, because you can still be married, still doing your thing, wanting to do your thing, and still be stressed out because you're trying to please your husband, you're trying to balance things out with the kids and make sure everybody's good, and it's stressful. So this is where we as women have lost a good bit, and I say this general, I'm just generalizing, right? Where we have lost the support of women are amongst ourselves, like being able to go to a group, that core group of women and friends that you trust, that you can go to, and family. We're spread out. We don't live, families are spread out now. So you just can't go and get the support that you really need. And, that kind of adds to the mental health issues. But yeah, that's it. I'm done.
All right, Enda, final thought on this.
So the way I view my life at this point, I see myself creating a village. I see that as a responsibility of women, especially alpha women. We birth villages, or we birth communities. We at least birth a family or a village or a community. You could birth a nation. Some women have birthed whole nations. And I see it as that is my responsibility to birth and nurture a nation, which is a big, huge job. Eve had that job. Eve could not have done that job without Adam. So even the most powerful of women need a balance of a most powerful of men to do whatever it is that we've been created to do since the beginning of time. And I feel that any woman who cannot accept that is operating in some level of unhealed masculine energy based on something that has occurred, either epigenetically or in this lifetime. If we continue to see ourselves as separate from men, and we just do not want to acknowledge that we need men as much as men need us, we're just going to perpetuate these issues. We need to heal. All of us need to heal so that we can accept that we really do need one another. I personally would not be upset that a man is making more than a woman. Personally, in my household, I would expect for my husband to make more than me so that I can give my energy to nurturing our children. I want to be doing bath times. I want to be baking pies. I want to be nurturing my family in that way. That's what I want to do. I want to be creative. I want to do that. So I would not mind. I would actually prefer to have a man taking those responsibilities. I would prefer to be submitted in a way that many feminists do not. They cringe at the thought of submitting. But it's a thought that I'm in love with, actually, no matter what I've been through.
Spirited conversation, ladies. I love it and I appreciate it. I thought I got to get my, come virtually and come separate y'all, but it's all good. We made it. All right, we're going to move over. You ladies went to perfect segue to our next conversation. You brought up the family a lot. So I want to ask this. In 2024, what effect does the feminist movement have on the nuclear family? We're going to start with Destiny.
I believe it's been very detrimental to the family. I believe it's been, it almost gets me emotional because when I talk to, women and, and men, I don't believe we understand men's hearts enough. When men love, they love very deeply. They love wholeheartedly, sacrificially, and they are, how do I say it? Almost confused as to what's going on. Like when you talk to them and they've been divorced and they're like, I was doing this and I was doing that. I was sacrificing and I was loving her. And one day, there's a whole ramification. I'm divorced, so I get it. But I think it's been very detrimental. Divorce rates are extremely high. Extremely high. It's tearing families apart. Children are being raised with, in a large extent, I'm finding where women are even not allowing the fathers, good fathers, not abusive fathers, good fathers, not to have time with their children because they felt, I don't know, they were controlled because a man put his foot down, or a man said, no, we can't go on that vacation, or no, you can't buy that $100 purse. He's controlling, he's mean, or maybe he was harsh in his tone. And I'm not agreeing with those certain things, harshness, or don't get me wrong. But sometimes we have a skewed view, and this goes back, to what a man's role is within the family. Women were led by emotions. So as soon as we feel like something's off, or we feel he's being mean, or we feel this or feel that, we take it to that next level. And if they don't come into alignment with how we feel, well, now we got to go. Now we got to divorce. And we're finding this. And I've talked to women, and I'll listen to what they explain. And there isn't one biblical reason for the divorce other than the fact that he was mean and controlling. And when I try to get an explanation of what that means, it's, well, he didn't understand me. None of these are biblical reasons. I'm not saying that they're necessarily okay, but we're destroying families, which God has ordained, because of a feeling, or not being able to come into agreement with something, or because our feelings were even hurt. Okay, so our feelings were hurt. Now what? So we're gonna, so my thing is, it's hurting the children deeply, and we're seeing that in how they're in their behavior at school. Many women, not all women, are raising them with feminist ideals, to where they don't respect men, they don't respect their own father. So I believe it's impacting generations at this point. And girls now, is middle school, don't want to get married. They want to they want to be the boss babe. They want to be the boss chick. They don't want kids. So we're seeing, I think it's going to get worse. We're starting to see the role of what's happening. And it's sad. It's sad to me that, and when you talk to men who, like I said, good fathers who aren't even allowed to really spend time with their children. They have to pick them up on a Saturday, drop them off by 6, and then they'll pick them up. Like they can't even spend the night. And there's no good reason other than the fact that she's controlling the situation, and she wants the control because she doesn't like him anymore, and manipulating the children to feel the same way. And I've experienced that in my own family. I've seen it happen. And it's sad. Parents need both. And it's 50-50. And I will go so far as to say this. Look, there's absolutely no reason why a father shouldn't have 50% of custody of his children at all. No reason, other than abuse, other than something that's obviously abuse and all that. But I have seen some of the, like I said, he takes a phone away because her grades aren't good, or his grades aren't good, or he's mouthed off at the teacher. And now all of a sudden, he's mean. He's mean to the kids. He doesn't want to listen to them. Like some wild stuff. He's a father. He doesn't parent how we parent. And that's why there's a mother and a father, for the balanced dynamic. And men are being penalized for being men and for being masculine. And it's the there's no reason. Sorry, there's no reason. I get pretty excited about this. There's no reason why fathers should not have just as much custody as the mothers have, and they are just as much of a parent as the mother is. Not any less, not anymore, whether we birthed them or not. Without their seed, we wouldn't even have that child. And if we made a poor decision on who we decided to be the parent of our children, guess what? That's something that we have to accept, pray over, and deal with it, and allow them to parent our children. Sorry.
No need to apologize. Sharita.
Okay, sorry, I had to click the unmute button there. I guess my position is probably a unique one, and it probably is going to come across as really weird, seeing as though I am in the traditional nuclear family situation. But I just tend to look at a lot of things and observations with my journey, right, in my life, and the women that are around me, and what they communicate, what they express, what we all talk about. And one of the things I have to say about it is enlightenment for women leads to empowerment. It really does. The more enlightened that we become, and enlightenment that women obtain, the veil gets lifted about the fantasy, like we've been sold, about the construct called the nuclear family. And it is a construct. It's something that we have to kind of go in deeper. I did not bring everything with me kind of to talk about that specifically, but the nuclear family is not always the best fit for women, or for even, some men for that matter. And women, I agree, women have gotten to a place now where they're more vocal and more, they're being more comfortable now expressing this. At the end of the day, women are fine. Just because I am in the nuclear family and whatnot doesn't mean that I'm going to put down somebody who is not, or does not endorse it. That it's just not for them. So I think that women are finally acknowledging themselves for who they are and what they want, and demanding to be respected for that. And men want the same thing, right? I feel like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So a lot of times, this whole nuclear family thing it might not go the way people thought it would or expect it would. More nuclear families could be split up and are splitting up, right? But unfortunately, if that woman is smart, she'll establish a great support system or village, that can catch her if and when she falls. And the same goes for the man as well. It's just a really sticky thing. And I think, Mel, we were on another panel where we talked about, the nuclear family. And I kind of touched on this. So it works for some, doesn't work for everybody. Just like you have various religions and people from different backgrounds and spiritual backgrounds. Everybody has a right to their flow, and their journey and what they believe in. And I respect all of it. It's what makes us who we are. I still, at the end of the day, I still like to see good balance in whatever it is that we're doing. Whatever that means for it, the individual that is that chooses to walk a path that they want to walk. So that's really all I have to say about it.
All right, nice. India.
So I was intelligently created by the Most High God, as were the trees, the birds, the butterflies, the squirrels, the clouds in the sky, the sun, the moon, all of that. And all of it has order. Everything in nature that was created intelligently by the Most High God operates in a certain way without disruption by the nature of those things. What makes mankind different is that we were given consciousness and we were given free will to operate outside of that intelligent design. if we all did the hard work of choosing to operate within our intelligent design and in alignment with it, even when it's hard, a squirrel still crosses the street knowing that big unnatural objects are flowing across the street. Why? Because they still do what's natural to them, no matter what has been added to these circumstances. I'm sure it's hard to cross the street as a squirrel these days, but they do it anyway. So it is hard to maintain a nuclear family. My parents have been married for 36 years. It has been 36 of the most tumultuous years. And I used to wonder why. I used to beg my daddy. I used to beg her to get up out of that. And at 36 years old, I am so grateful that I was raised in a household with both my parents, that I'm grateful that I had a military army war veteran father who put his foot down. Now, he had some things that he had to work through that war did to him, that childhood did to him. But my mama loved that man, period, still to this day, no matter what, no matter how foolish all four of her daughters thought it was. Our mama loved that man and stuck beside him. And I've learned something, even being twice divorced myself. My mama didn't stand for that. My mama don't stand for that. Even I know that there was benefit for me and my sisters, for my mother sticking through what she stuck through. So we had our daddy. So we were raised in a balanced household. And so that we were disciplined the way that we were disciplined. There is a huge difference between me and every other 36-year-old girl raised on the far east side of Indianapolis, because I had the daddy that I had. And that is a standard. The word of God tells us that correction is in love, and those who reject correction are fools and will perish. It is a guarantee. So when we as women run from the presence of a man, it is because, one, we are not used to that energy, and we are rejecting the correction that man's energy brings. I will never, ever, ever speak against, now that I am mature and I have lived through it and I am a living testimony to it, I will never speak against the importance of the nuclear family. That is something that was created by design by God. The nuclear family is the first institution. It is the only natural institution that we have. And literally every institution that has been created by man is designed by what it looks like a family unit looks like, starting with the head, going down to who is next, and then branching off the way it does. Every institution is modeled after that nuclear family. So I'm just here to say that if we all continue to be in active pursuit, like you said, Sharitha, of enlightenment and of healing, we can get back to our nature, which is to see one another with loving eyes and to stick with what God has created us to do. And it's hard and push through, and always operate in love. Number one, as opposed to seeing our partners with a deficit view. And if you are in a nuclear family, Sharitha, you're the spokesperson of it. So what I hear you saying is that I'm in it and I hate it. I'm in it and I don't see any benefit of it. I'm in it and I'm not inspired by it. I'm not in it and I'm inspired by the existence of it. I'm not in it and I aspire to it. If you're in it, we need you to be the spokesperson of it. Otherwise, that's what is going to kill it. The people who are in it, who just don't want it, are going to be the ones who kill it.
Floor is open for a response or rebuttal.
No, I did. Destiny, did she answer that question yet?
Yeah, she went first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, actually, yes, you read that correctly. Let me say, I'm in my second marriage. Okay. And I've talked about this before on prior podcasts with Mel. The first marriage, it was okay. But and now my second one, even though this one is better, I was born and raised, brought up Christian, right? But then over time, my journey took me away. I'm just into my spirituality. That's where I am right now. My husband is Muslim. And a lot of people say, well, how do you guys make that work? We do. Surprisingly, we do make it work. But just due to my path of enlightenment and what I now know and have discovered, I feel like, knowing what I know with this nuclear family and just, I know a lot of people start with the Bible, okay, with, oh, this was ordained by God and this is how it's supposed to be. But what I personally know to be true is that we're not backing up far enough. We're not going back. Everybody's like, well, what's before the Bible? It's a lot, okay, that has to be, that when you interpret, the Bible was supposedly inspired, okay, by a man that wrote this. You got to back up to ancient times and civilizations to really get to the meat and root of how culture was done. And so that's the journey that I have embarked on. And when I look at how much effort and work it takes just to make the nuclear family work, there is a reason. By the way, the family is an invention that came about. It's not what people think it is. But you're right. I do agree with you. Yes, I don't fully support. I'm not 100% on board with forcing somebody into a nuclear family situation, because it doesn't flow well with everybody. It really doesn't. People have different backgrounds, and I respect that. I come from different my family is blended, different backgrounds, different beliefs, different things. So you just got to go with what your spirit, what flows best with you. You know what I'm saying? If it works for you and that's what you got to, but I'm not going to cheerlead something that I personally am like, well, it's not bad, but I'm not 100% thrilled about it. But we make it work. Me and my husband, we love each other. We respect each other. We've been married for over 11 years now. So, and we get along better than some people who are like cheerleading and champion the nuclear family. Okay. So it's not really about that. It's what works and suits the person and wherever they are at in their journey. That's really what I'm about.
I hear what you're saying, but what you're saying is it's not working. Something is not working, but it's not the institution that's not working. It's you and him. And if it's from your perspective, anything in my life that's not working, I immediately reflect on what is it? What do I have going on? Why am I in this? What got me in this? Or is it my perspective? Like it's me. Everything you're an enlightened person, so you know that the entire universe around you is a reflection of what you're of the universe in you. So any misalignment comes from an internal misalignment. So I say that to say that we're having two different conversations, because Destiny and I, as followers of Christ, Destiny and I are operating under this very specific mission of bringing forth the kingdom of heaven here to earth. So what we see is how the function of humanity is in the kingdom of heaven, and we're trying to operate that way. But if one does not believe in or see or already have the kingdom of heaven in their heart, you're going to see things differently. So there are just some things that we're just not ever going to.
And that's my point exactly. Yeah, that was my original point. Yeah, that's my original point. We're going to see it differently, and like I said, it's good to have a healthy level of debate and offer different perspectives. But I agree with you 1,000%, India. It's you're going to always see something different, and just because you think or believe in the nuclear family the way you do, and it doesn't mean there's necessarily a misalignment. It's just where each one of us are individually in our journeys, right? This thing we call life. And so, no, it doesn't mean that. Like I've said before on a prior podcast, I've been married twice now, and in between, I was single for about 8-9 years. I was the happiest. I admit it. I tell everybody I was the happiest when I was single. And I looked at my life and the way things flowed and what was going on. And I was a single mom. I had, my 2 older sons. And some things are just for people and some aren't. But I don't condemn anybody, like either way for what their beliefs is and what they are. This is just the flow of life. Just because somebody doesn't think or look at something the way I view it, I'm not going. Hey, it's all love here.
No doubt. Go ahead, Destiny.
I'm glad India spoke on the fact of being a child, seeing her parents go through what they went through in their mom and in her perspective. That was interesting, and that was one thing for me, being married to my children's father. people always people ask me, do you regret this? Do you regret that? You should have left then. You should have left here. You should have, given me all these things of what I should have and shouldn't have done. First of all, I was guided and directed by the Holy Spirit in everything that I did. So yes, I could have left year one. I could have, year 3, 5, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, my boys have such a strong foundation in all areas, and all of them are very much marriage minded. They don't talk girlfriend talk, and they don't talk who they gonna get with, or she looks like so I am very grateful, and despite of what I may or may not have went through, despite of my own feelings, despite of my own hurt, my pain or hurt or any of that, I'm grateful that my boys see life the way that they see it, and they have a strong foundation in that area. So I appreciate your comment in regards to that, because that reminded me again, of an appreciation. I don't regret anything. So I went through what I went through, and that was because of a choice that I made to enter into that specific institution with that specific person. It wasn't the institution that was wrong. It definitely who I chose to say yes to. But even aside from that, there's a couple of things that I wrote down to touch base on. Family is the basis of any strong society. Since the beginning of time, every strong country had strong families. Even as strong as Rome was, they understood family was the pinnacle of having a strong country. And that, to me, that when I learned that was very impactful, because we know in Roman times, homosexuality has been around forever. It's not new. Michelangelo, it's been around for a long time, but they never changed the laws to fit for that type of union, all to say. They knew that they had to keep the family together, the nuclear family, in order for the country to be strong. So that was when I really started looking at that made a strong impact on me. I don't know, that was, and that's outside of any spiritual belief. There's a spiritual belief, and then there's just, they understand what makes a strong country is a strong family. I think on the spiritual side of it too, we have a hard time. A lot of times women have a hard time understanding that we came from a man originally, and it was for men. So we were never really designed by God to just be out here, like uncovered, like we're just our own, we are our own people. Don't get me wrong, but we come from man for man. So that's why we have we're trying to do something that we really don't have business doing, if I can say so. We're trying to be leaders. We're trying to be authority in certain areas. We're trying to be our own, when originally that was not God's design. That wasn't the purpose. And I think whenever you try to do something, use something outside of the purpose of what it was intended for, you're going to see a problem. I can't take my screwdriver and try to cut paper with it. It's not going to work. You're going to have a problem. And that's kind of how I see some of that. And again, we are equal but different. We have different roles, and we are just equal to the heirs of the kingdom as men are. But we definitely come from men for men. And I think when women start to understand that and really learn that and appreciate that, it's actually a strength, and there's actually freedom in that. To be covered. And I think what has happened is that some women have been taken advantage of, sadly. And so we get a skewed view of how that is. And like India was saying, a lot of healing needs to take place. I needed healing. That was the first thing that I did, because we can become bitter. We can become resentful because, we thought we were doing it right. Right. And then it blows up in our face. And so then our first reaction is, well, I can't do that. This isn't right. When in actuality is we have to go back and where did we Where did we, accountability, get it wrong? And once we can answer the question, where did we get it wrong? It helps realize going forward what we need to do to make a change, to make our next situation, if you want to get married or whatever, a better one. So it really has to start with ourselves, accountability, asking where did we get it wrong? Even just simply by the choice of saying yes to the wrong person. If something starts off wrong, it's really hard to make it right. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I
Sorry.
just think the most beautiful experience. Now, I was only a man's wife for 7 months, 8 months total, from paper to paper, from signature to signature, 8 months. But it was the most beautiful experience. I really enjoyed it. That's when I fell in love with being a man's wife. So even though he has his own demons, and that was just something that was never going to work out because we were not equally yoked, what I discovered about me is that I am in love with that position. I am in love with being the helper because that means I'm helpful. I'm in love with being used because that means I'm useful. Like, to be present for your man, that man that is designated for you, to be able to be present for that man, and he can, we're like Dora's backpack. Anything that man needs, he can just, anything that you may need, I've got inside for you. That's what it means at this point. That's what it means to be a wife. Anything that you may need, I've got inside for you. And it sucks. Like, it drains you. Even with that one, like with that man, with all those demons, that man came out a far better person. He came out of that marriage a far, far better person than he went in. So I know I did the wife thing, and I could close that chapter and be okay with it. It sucks. It's exhausting. It's painful. But when you look at what you've done, when you really give it all you've got, being a wife, and you look at the children that you raised or birthed or whatever, you look at the home that you created, you look at whatever has come out of this man, there's honor in that. There's real privilege in that. And we get rewarded for that as women. We may not get rewarded this side of glory, but we get rewarded for that. I know it. I know Destiny knows it. You can feel it. And that's why we keep going no matter what. And that's just my attempt to minister in this moment. I'm not trying to change your mind about anything, Sharitha, but if I'm ever offered an opportunity to minister to somebody's heart, that's what I'm going to do. Like, there's just something about having Christ.
I know that's the difficult part when I have conversations with Christian, right? And Christian women, and even any, like I said, my husband's Muslim. So there's a lot of traditional foundations and things that are built in there as well. So it's difficult to have the conversations like this without really going in deeper, right? And I understand this isn't the time or the panel for that, but it just makes conversations like this, I'm not trying to wanting to come in and step on or override anybody's toes, because I can go deeper with my explanation on why my beliefs are what they are, but it's going to unravel the sweater, and people are going to find themselves like, oh, I don't like that. It's just going to be uncomfortable conversations, if that person is not really ready for it. So, I'm going to leave my thoughts right there. And hey, if we get invited back to have another panel to explore and go deeper on some things, then great. But, until then, I appreciate, having this conversation with you ladies today. It really does. But I understand the need to feel like, I want to minister. And, a lot of times when people hear you're not a Christian anymore, whatever, they feel like you're a lost soul that has to be, you need to be saved. And that's not, see, and that's not the case. That's not the case for me, but I understand, and I totally respect, where you ladies are. Like I said, I am really about balance, and like you said, love is the order of the day. Like, at all costs, love is where it's at. We gotta love each other.
No doubt. We're going to Destiny on the last word on this. We're going to last word.
just real quick, and it won't be long. I did want to add that I do believe if someone doesn't want kids, if someone doesn't want to get married, please don't. Like, because you will just create a wake of hurt and pain in your path. So, and as Paul said, I wish that everybody could stay like me, single, because then your focus can be on God and Christ and your mission for the kingdom. So please, I do want to say that if you don't want to get married, don't. Like, you don't, like, no, you don't have to, right? And also, I don't lose my train of thought. And to India's point, and I love everything that you're saying. So, and I know you won't take offense to this, but I want to make sure that anybody listening, marriage can be work. I don't want anybody to think that it necessarily sucks though, or that it's horrible or hard or, oh my God, like, I don't want, being a helpmate is a special position. And even, well, I don't care. Okay. So as even a husband or a wife, you need the Holy Spirit. You need the Holy Spirit. Men need it to deal with their wives. Women need it to help their husbands. It's very difficult, and it will become hard if you don't have that foundation and within yourself to seek Christ in prayer. Take your husband in prayer to God, and for the husband to seek Christ, for his wife. How can I learn her? How can I understand him? It does go, it's so far beyond what we want to take it because of our own pride. We don't want to go to God and say, how can you fix me? What am I doing wrong in this situation that can make our family better, can make my marriage better? So can it be difficult? Yes. Do you have difficult moments? Yes. Does it have to be super hard? No, not when you have two people aligned who love Christ, who love the Lord, who understand there's a bigger vision besides, do I love him? Do I love him? Okay, yeah. It's bigger than that, though. There's a greater purpose of how he makes me feel. Of course, I want to feel good. That's not the purpose, though, right? So it's so far beyond just me and him. If that's all we're going to look at, it's never going to work. You're going to constantly be fighting, divorce, all that. So that's just what I wanted to say, too. It's so much further beyond the two individuals. And if that's what people are looking at, it won't ever work. And it'll be very difficult, very hard. Get the Holy Spirit, rely on the Holy Spirit. Trust the Holy Spirit. Don't trust your husband. Trust the Holy Spirit and who's the Holy Spirit that's in him. That's.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mel. If I just quickly, I don't mean, because you're right, it doesn't suck. But when I say suck, I mean like you can literally feel it pulling out of you sometimes. Like it will deplete you when you're doing it right. When you do any job that you're doing, doing right, it's going to deplete you, and you've got to have a source pouring back into you. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it. But thank you for that.
Lovely conversation, ladies. I need y'all to bring it on this last question here. We're gonna start with Sharita. What message or potential controversial take would you like to give on this topic as we wrap up today?
Okay. Hold on. Sorry, phone was going off. Okay. So what is it again? What final?
Final message or potential controversial, meaning say, get it off your chest. Whatever you want to say, just say it. Would you like to have on this topic?
I mean, I think I've already said pretty much a lot, that would be considered controversial. But, I just don't want, what I said earlier to be misconstrued. We all agree to some extent that men and women will never be equal. In so many words, we're just not going to be equal, but we're just not meant to be forced into certain circumstances simply because it's, counterintuitive. I think some things, and when I say forced, I don't mean like somebody holding a gun to your head kind of a situation, but forced can be done through programming and indoctrination, right? So there are some things that now, as I have grown and walked on a journey of understanding who I am, this world, God, whatever, I just feel like there are some things that goes against our very nature when you really dig deep into it. So that's the thing. A lot of people, that I have conversations with don't really go deep underneath the skin to uncover. They just kind of stay on a certain level with their beliefs, and it gets very difficult to have those more intricate conversations on certain things. So but either way, I just think that at the end of the day, women, we have to be more responsible and accountable for our space, our mind, and body and spirit, right? And the only way to have that in today's world is to ensure there are, we have some checks and balances, right? In certain things and laws to maintain order. We know that men are physically, right, stronger than us and can overtake us, and some would love to live out their savage fantasies by keeping women, enslaved. But oddly enough, there are even some women that believe complete submission to their man means sacrificing their own happiness. And I just don't follow those traditional laws and not laws, but the principles as far as that goes. Like, I don't think anybody should be sacrificing their happiness just to say, oh, I just want to be a part of this nuclear family and I just want to have this thing. Like I said, I respect whatever decision a woman makes. Every woman is on her own journey. So that's really, all I want to say about that is, just, controversial or not, that's really that's how I see it.
No doubt. All right, India.
Controversial. The most supreme being in all of God's universe is the fully self-actualized feminine female human being. Bonus points for melanin. When we are tapped in to our creative nature, we are the closest thing to the supreme being of God who created everything that we exist amongst. We actually create life and birth it. We are the vessel,
Yep.
We are extraordinarily powerful. So being able to submit, there was a time when I was, I had a lot of power over a lot of people. And I could have abused that power. And there were opportunities for me to abuse that power. But being able to submit takes true strength, to submit to the will of God, to submit to whatever is above you, knowing how supreme you are and you could do damage with that. So when a woman is able to know and see who she is and simultaneously can submit to something, she has exercised a level of power that the universe isn't even prepared for, but was created for. That is my controversial take.
All right, Destiny.
Happiness.
Controversial. Yeah, we said a lot in that area so far, I think. My take really, which is anti-modern, I guess you can say, is I would love for women to learn and understand the power that we have in our true femininity, the power that we truly have in knowing who God created us to be, what our purpose is here on earth, that there is strength in submission. It's not about being controlled, because a man who understands submission understands the wisdom of his wife, understands how she can help him and guide him and actually take him to a new level that he couldn't go possibly without her. So we have a very skewed way at looking at our role and how that's been changed through feminism and what we have been told even what we have been told matters. Like, we're not even, no longer is it important to be a mother or a wife per se. That's not what our daughters are being taught as they're being raised. Everything, even in Christian circles, it's be a boss, own, go to school, get your degree, become a doctor. And I'm not saying that those are bad things. I'm not saying that. It's just that we've taken that and made it more important than who God originally designed us to be. And there truly is power and understanding that there's again, many of us we've gotten with the wrong men. We just have. And it has skewed how we view ourselves. It has skewed how we see God our Father, and a lot of it, and a lot of it hasn't even started with the men who we've decided to be with. A lot of it has started with our actual earthly fathers, whether they were even there and present. If they were present, were they neglectful? Were they abusive? Were they, did they love us the proper way? Did they train us the proper? Because how we view our earthly father a lot of times is how we're going to view our heavenly Father. So if we feel like we were neglected by our Father, what makes us believe that our heavenly Father loves us any different or any better or whatnot? So then we have a skewed idea of who we are as women. So I think if we can really take the time, get back to what we were originally created for, why we were created, who we are as women, the power that we have, and in all that God has created us to be, wonderfully made, fearfully made, we will truly find freedom within that, more so than what we think we have found freedom in. Because you talk to women who have done all the things that they said they wanted to do, and they're still extremely unhappy. They're still searching. They're constantly wanting more, constantly searching. And to me, that's a big factor in why even this feminist movement, we have second, third, and fourth waves. Like, what are we doing? Like, I mean, what's going to be the fifth wave? We constantly wanting more because we don't know who we are. We don't know what we were created to be, why we were created to be that. So I think if we get back to the simplicity of it, we'll come to really learn that. That's my take.
Love it so much. Ladies, such a powerful conversation. Amazing as a man to see you three ladies just sit. No, I'm just joking. It's been great. It's been amazing. But thank you so much for joining. Guys, if you're in the comment section, let us know. Not that who won, anything like that. Just let us know what your thoughts are. Add your thoughts to this conversation. This is a collaborative effort here. Sharitha, India, Destiny, thank you so much once again. Enjoy your day. Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Mel. Thank you for joining my channel. Thank you for checking things out here. Oftentimes we go on people's pages and are like, man, what is going on here? What is the purpose of this channel? So let me be clear. The purpose of this channel is to speak truth regarding the nuclear family. And when I say truth, I'm not saying my truth, not your truth, but the Lord's truth. All about the word, all about the ways and the will of God. What does he have to say about the nuclear family? And I believe the generations of today, whether it be Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever the case may be, I believe now we have a very toxic relationship regarding marriage, regarding family, regarding having children. We're in a toxic dynamic as we speak. And honestly speaking, a lot of the answers that we're looking for in our community, a lot of the cures and a lot of the answers would come from a proper, fulfilled family home. If you go down the line of everyone's individual trauma, there you will find some negligence or some type of issue that they had with their parents. So here on this channel, we address those things head on. We don't place fear in those issues and avoid the topic. We do what Jesus did. And when he said, don't assume that I came for peace, but I came with a sword. I came to turn family members against family members if it means you following me. If you have to cut them off, if you have to address them and have arguments for you to follow me, so be it. And I think at this point in our society, we're at the so be it stage. So here at Life Coaching by Mel, I'm all about bringing healing to that. And the number one way to do that is have honest conversations. So if that's something you like, that's something you're into, that's something you really want to be a part of, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to comment. Let me know what you think about everything. I do my best to respond as often as I can. I want to hear from you guys. This is not about me. It's about healing our nation, healing our states, healing our cities, healing our community, healing our homes. Love you guys. Take care.
Let's go.